and welcome to the program. I am Oyi Adekunle, standing in for DEJI Bademosi. Let's begin the discussion with one issue which has got many Nigerians talking over the past few days, and that will be President Muhammadu Buhari traveling outside the country without officially handing over powers, as the Constitution requires, to Vice President Yemi Osinbajo. President Buhari departed the country on October 28 for Saudi Arabia before proceeding on a 2-week private visit to London on November 2. Now, what has got the attention of many people was what happened while he was in London. The Chief of Staff, Abba Kyari, took the amended Deep Offshore Act to London for the president to sign. Well, that action raised many questions like, why did the bill have to be taken all the way, considering all the expenses that would have been incurred? Why could Osinbajo not sign the bill back home or even take it to the president himself instead of the Chief of Staff, amongst other things? But meanwhile, the presidency has backed Buhari's action, quoting Section 145, subsection 2 of the Constitution, that the president was not mandated to hand over power to the vice president unless he will be away for more than 21 days. Now, we've been speaking to Barrister Monday Ubani, who is a former vice president of the Nigerian Bar Association, for his own take, as well as the position of the Constitution on this particular matter. Take a listen now to what Ubani has been saying.
The President, Chief of Staff, was one that took the bill that was passed by the National Assembly to the President somewhere in UK, and not people that are supposed to be officially empowered to do that. I mean, we have aides on legislative matters. The Vice President is also there. And so it gives credence maybe that things are not normal, because we didn't hear about the transmission of power by the President while he was going on this official visit. I remember the last time he did was sometime in April, where Nigerians also were very angry that the President was going abroad for what he termed private visit without transmitting power to the Vice President in accordance with Section 145 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. And I want to also point out this issue of 21 days, which the presidency have been making a mountain of. I'm sure they have not actually read that particular subsection correctly, because if they did, they would not be saying gleefully, in a manner that shows, oh, we are right in what we have done with regards to that section. What that section says, that Section 145, it says that unless the President says otherwise, he is under obligation under the Constitution to transmit power anytime he is going to be outside the shores of the country. Anytime he's leaving the shores of the country, he has to, especially when he's going on vacation, he has to transmit power to his vice. That is what that law says. Now, because of what transpired in Yar'Adua's era, where Yar'Adua went on medical leave, and for many months there was no transmission of power to the then vice president of the country, and it created so much uproar and crisis within the polity. The Constitution was amended and now said that, look, if the president himself, who's supposed to transmit power, fails or neglects or refuses to do that, then the National Assembly, if 21 days expires, will now automatically empower the vice president to act. In other words, if the president fails to do what he's supposed to do, the maximum time that should be given to him by the National Assembly before they now pass a resolution empowering the vice to act on his behalf is 21 days. That does not mean that the time that the president now will take before he can transmit power is 21 days. That is not the meaning of that particular section. That would be doing injustice to Section 145. And that would be doing injustice to the drafters of the Constitution, even for the amendment that was done subsequently. The meaning of that section means that if the president himself now refuses, if the president now fails, which is supposed to not to, because he swore to uphold the Constitution, if he he fails to now transmit power in accordance with Section 145, then the National Assembly now will now come in to do what he ought to have done after 21 days. So for them now to begin to say that, oh, he has to reach up to 21 days before the president can transmit, that is only when it passes 21 days, that is doing injustice, that is doing, draconian injustice to the express provision of Section 145. That section says anytime the president is going on his annual vacation or whatever private visit, outside the shores of the country, he has to transmit power to the vice president who acts in his state. He must do that. But if he fails to, which he's supposed not to, because that would clearly be a violation of the Constitution, which he swore to uphold, then it becomes very, very, possible for the House now to tell him what he's supposed to have done by passing a resolution mandating the vice president. So anyone giving that subsection a very wrong interpretation that it must elapse for 21 days before the president can transmit power is doing injustice to those who drafted that constitution. So I think we need to clarify that particular section and the subsection so that Nigeria will understand it. The president has violated the constitution once again. It's a matter that is sub judice anyway. It's before the court. And he has given reason why, and he's relying on this issue of 21 days. And I'm saying here that is not the interpretation of section 145, subsection 2. It's only because he has failed. It's only because he has refused. It's only because he has neglected that the National Assembly can only come in after 21 days. But if he has done what he's supposed to do, the National Assembly cannot in any way pass a resolution. So that is the correct interpretation and not what they are trying to comfort themselves with. So it gives us an impression that all is not well within the presidency if the president can go outside the shores of the country without transmitting power. And let me say this. I think sometime in 2018 or 17 or thereabout, the president has, stayed outside the country for 10 days. He was going on a working visit, I think for 10 days or for a medical. And he transmitted power. 10 days. He transmitted power. So I don't know how suddenly they now realized that it's subsection 2 that now says 21 days. He was going outside when relationship was very normal. When they were having, a good relationship, working relationship and moving this country forward. He transmitted power when he stayed outside the country for only 10 days. I remember vividly that the president has transmitted power before when he stayed outside the country for 10 days. So why are we not talking about 21 days? And that 21 days, as I said earlier, is clearly being misinterpreted. It's giving a wrong definition of what subsection 2 says. So to me, Nigerians have a right to read the meaning that all is not well within the presidency. That is a fact. Let me say this. I have never seen any country in the world where the president of the country that is a sovereign nation signs a very important enactment of the National Assembly, no matter how urgent, outside the shores of the country. I've not seen it being done, even by small countries like Ghana. Because, you see, I don't know what interpretation, I don't know what meaning you want people in the world to ascribe, to the office of the presidency and to sovereignty and for the dignity and integrity of a great country like Nigeria that happened to be the largest country in Africa, in the African continent. In terms of even, in the world today, Nigeria is one of the countries rated in terms of population and size. So for such a big country that have virtually everything that we're supposed to have, for our president even to be spending holiday outside, in another person's and then stays there to be signing bills and giving us the impression that what he has done is quite right. To me, he's undermining even the country itself, the sovereignty of the country. He's also undermining Nigerians themselves. We're all over the world. There is no place where we are not making, great giant stride, in American, continent, all over the world. But for such a country to be reduced to what we are seeing presently and all that, I will not stay here and clap and say that the right thing is being done. We must be able to tell the president the correct thing. And what happened to leaders in Africa is that people around them do not tell them the right thing. They don't tell them the truth. And that's why our leaders keep on making mistakes. But I wish that people around office, corridors of power, will muster the courage at times to tell leaders that, oh no, this is not right. We should be able to do it this way. And that is the only way we can be able to make progress. But when we have people who are bootlickers, people who want to curry favor all because of what they can eat and begin to tell leaders the wrong thing, you begin to have what we're having presently. The president has undermined the sovereignty of the country by signing bills and then gleefully, showing the entire world that he's signing bill that pertains to our country. In UK, I don't think any country, the UK Prime Minister will do that. I don't think even Trump will do that. I don't even think that small country like Ghana, all these smaller countries around us in Africa, will even do that. I know that in African continent, things are done in a weird manner. Our leaders, sometimes are very funny. But even at that, I have never heard of leaders in African continent doing this. And so we have heard it with Yaradua, and even then, President Buhari himself was in opposition, and they condemned such act. When it was being reported that our president was signing our bill, our appropriation act, in UK. I mean, somewhere either in the UK or somewhere he was taking his medical treatment, then other in Germany. And we condemned it. And we are the government of change. We brought change in order to change all that. The issue of impunity and doing things rightly. Why are we now encouraging that? When the Constitution itself has made provision for things to be done smoothly in case the president is not around. There's a vice president. Or if the bill is so important for you to be the one to sign, why don't you come back and then sign it in Nigeria? Why sign it in faraway UK, outside our shores? It doesn't portray us in good light, and the president must be told so. We must be able to tell the president of the country who is governing us, whom we have elected to rule us, that this is the right thing, that what we are doing, that I feel offended as a citizen, I feel violated. Seeing my president signing the bill that pertains to my country in UK, I, Ubani, Mondo Nyekachi, I feel violated. I feel demeaned. I don't feel proud of it. And I cannot clap for the president. And if anyone is clapping because of what they can get, let them go ahead and clap. But let it be entered in history. There are people who, see the president and told him that this thing you have done is not right. You are not portraying our country in good light. And I don't think he's giving impression to the white people that where he is now, that he's giving them good impression about Nigeria as a country. I don't feel proud about it. I'm interested in the content of the bill, but I'm also interested in procedure. And I'm interested in integrity of my country. The bill is wonderful. I clap for them for passing the bill that will properly, regulate, the oil sector and make Nigerians now to have a good share of whatever they're supposed to get by way of percentage. Beautiful. But I'm saying, why do it outside country? Such a very important bill should have been better signed in Nigeria, in our shores here, not outside the shores of the country. If the president feels that bill is so important for him to append his signature, he should have waited and come back, enjoy his holiday, then come back to the country and sign it here. One, there are many things that this matter raises. This matter raises issue one: are you not supposed to have handed over to your vice before leaving? Now, who was supposed even to take that bill to the president in UK? Now, why must you even, be in a hurry to sign the bill outside the shores of the country? Why must you even not come back to the country and sign the bill? So many issues are raised. Why didn't you even transmit power? Why are you relying on this issue of 21 days, whether there is no such thing? It is only because when you have breached the Constitution, you now begin to talk about 21 days. The National Assembly comes in. And National Assembly will only come in when you have breached the Constitution by passing a resolution. That's the meaning of that 21 days. There is no way that subsection 2 of 145 gives the president any leeway to say it's only when it is 21 days, it's more than you cannot transmit power. There is no way. It is only saying that the National Assembly will now come to tell the president, this is what you have done wrong. Since you are not able to do what the Constitution says, we are now helping you to do it by passing a resolution mandating the vice president to act. So it is wrong for anyone to interpret that subsection in the manner they're interpreting it. So that's my take in this. The president has not in any way taken us higher with regards to integrity, with regards to a sovereign nation in the act he has just displayed by signing this piece of bill outside the shores of the country. I'm not happy about it. The point is that let's get it right. He is the president of the country. He has not abdicated. He has not resigned. But I think that the proper thing for any president who is taking probably a private visit, and in such a manner, is going to stay like 17 days, to not allow a vacuum to exist in his country, to make sure that what the Constitution says in terms of who's supposed to be acting before you come back is done. And the Constitution says you transmit power to your vice. If the Constitution has said so, why didn't you do it that way? And if you have done it that way, there won't be any this uproar about what has actually transpired. I mean, the president would have allowed probably the person that is acting now to sign. As I said earlier, he can also send message that that piece of bill shouldn't be signed until he comes back. That can be done. Are you following me? The vice president has a good understanding with the vice president. If he gives that instruction that he will really want to sign that bill personally, there won't be any problem. The vice will wait and put the bill aside until he comes and signs it. That is what I think should have happened if the president feels so constrained that he must be the one to sign it. But why carry this bill to UK and then showing the entire world that you are signing a bill that pertains to our life, outside your shores of your country? One is even wrong for the president who promised change not to have even fixed our medicals, our health sector, because there's no way you can rule out the fact that their president will be there. He will visit his doctors there. I think that we should be able to sort out these things. If you have shut the borders against importation of some of these things, which we consider. Let Nigeria begin to develop some of the things manufacture and plant and sow and reap those things we can eat in this country. Let's also probably take into further. It's not only issue of food. Let's take it to the health sector. Let's begin to take treatment here in Nigeria. Let's even take it further to education. Let's begin to educate our children here in Nigeria. I want a leader that will come tomorrow and say, I, as a leader, I will want everyone around me. I will want myself now to begin to practicalize these examples that I will not patronize medicals abroad. I will not patronize schools abroad. My children will school here and all that. If you begin to do that, you are sending a right signal. I will not ride any imported car. Since we have people now that produce cars here locally, manufacture, we now begin to use local, manufactured cars. If you begin to do it, people will begin to emulate you. If you begin to cite China, that China closed borders for 40 years or for 100 years, what did they do? What was example that the leaders showed that made people now to follow and begin now to be proud of what they are manufacturing? Their leaders showed example. We cannot be preaching one thing and be doing a different thing entirely. That is hypocrisy. That is pure hypocrisy. Our leaders must begin to lead by example. If you say you are closing border to food importation, you must also close the border for health issue. You must also close the border for educational issues so that we can begin to now fix our basic infrastructures. Nigeria is a giant. Nigeria is a great nation. We have all the resources that we need to, tap and use everything that we have internally to take care of ourselves. It's a great nation in all respects. So I don't like this hypocrisy. It's something that is condemnable. It's something that I'm not going to clap for. It's something that I cannot be proud of. As I said earlier, I am clearly violated. When I saw the presidency, trying to justify what has happened, I said, God, that cannot be right. Can't be right. I think that is clearly not a good example. It's not a good precedent. We thought we have had enough of such precedent from the likes of late Yar'Adua. When Yar'Adua, said, Andoaka then were the Attorney General, said that they can rule from anywhere in the world. He entered into the black books of Nigerians. I'm surprised that Adams Oshomole, who was once a frontline, leader in the labor sector, is now echoing what Andoaka said, that it and got many Nigerians angry that the president can rule from anywhere in the world. That's not a good statement. It is not a good justification for what is presently playing out. The president has a constitutional duty to hand over to somebody that the constitution has actually empowered if he's going to be outside of the country. If he's going to be outside the shores of the country, he hands over to his vice, who acts in his stead. Let it enter into history that is what the law says. Let it be said that I say that is what the law says. That is what the constitution says. And that is logical. And that is normal. And that is the right thing to say. And that is the right thing to do. What the president has done is unlawful, is unconstitutional, is a clear violation of the constitution that he swore to uphold. Let's say it, let's tell him, so that he will know. If nobody tells him, he will not hear it from those who are milling around him, trying to curry favor and tell him what he wants to hear. The president has breached the constitution, he has violated the constitution of 1999 of the country, and he knows it. He's supposed to hand over to his vice. 21 days they are using as an example does not in any way cover him. It's only when he has breached the constitution the National Assembly comes in to help him do what he has failed to do. Let him be told the right thing. Let lawyers tell him. Let his Attorney General tell him the right interpretation of the Constitution. All
right, so that was Barrister Monday Ubani, the second Vice President of the Nigerian Bar Association, giving us his take on the President Buhari signing of the Deep Offshore Act outside of the country. Let's now take a short break now, and when we return, we'll be discussing something different. Please stay tuned.
On DEJI 360, we don't just ask the questions. What is wrong with amending the Constitution the way the National Assembly members have been doing it? We seek answers.
Constitution is constituent. Our problem is not lack of laws. Our problem is lack of the willpower to implement our laws.
Answers that provide clarity.
While we negotiate, we should try to make it a point that the girls must be complete.
The clarity you need to make informed judgment so that you can make the right decision and take action. People are saying it is you politicians that are responsible for this, that you are the reason why this is happening.
All these dollars that call themselves governors in this country. I wish we had people like Tony at the National Assembly. God forbid that I go to join that
DEJI 360, providing clarity to issues.